Is Conor Benn a dangerous contender, or is he boxing's best marketed cash cow? To judge him, we need to define credibility, not a job title, but the proof under pressure. In boxing, of course, there are many levels: British champion, European champion, contender, world champion. These are measured by who you beat, how you win, and what was stacked against you. Benn's resume leans on Algieri and Eubank Jr., but which Eubank Jr. showed up, and how much did weight and rehydration matter? Marketing put Benn in the algorithm. Craft will keep him in the algorithm. And of course, Conor Benn has speed, he has power, head movement and heart. But can he beat elite technicians like Shakur or compete against Ryan Garcia? Let's talk about it. Conor Benn, dangerous contender or manufactured hype? When we talk about Conor Benn, it's important to define credibility. So I tell you what, we're going to define credibility generally, and then we'll look at credibility within a boxing context. So when we talk about credibility, I can think of certain professions: doctor, surgeon, professor, lawyer, and psychiatrist, and there's many more. But when we talk about credibility in boxing, let's look at the greats that have credibility. Muhammad Ali, Evander Holyfield, George Foreman, Larry Holmes, the great Pernell Whitaker, Roy Jones, what a tremendous fighter he was, Roberto Duran, Ezra Charles, and the list goes on and on and on. These are credible boxers, boxers of an elite standard. So when we talk about boxing, it's also important to understand that there's credibility, but then within the credibility, there's levels. In other words, there's different levels to boxing. There's British champion, European champion, contender, champion, etc. So when we're talking about Conor Benn, where does he sit? He hasn't been in boxing long enough to have a credibility of, say, a great fighter like Roy Jones, but where does he currently sit? Well, arguably, Conor Benn has two significant names on his resume. One is Chris Eubank Jr. and the other is Algieri. Algieri, I believe, is a former world champion, and Chris Eubank Jr. is a former contender who had championship level ability. Question: how good was Chris Eubank Jr. when he got into the ring with Conor Benn? Of course, the context here is that there was a rehydration clause. It's important to recognize that Chris Eubank Jr. consented to this rehydration clause, but how good was he when he got into that ring? So this returns us to that question of credibility. And to determine that is that question of what is Conor Benn's level? What is Conor Benn's level? You could make an argument that he's currently at European level and a potential contender. That's the current level that he's on. However, the Conor Benn Eubank fight, those two fights, that put Conor Benn in the algorithm. So Conor Benn he has an engine and he has a marketing machine. Think of this. He inherited his dad's name, who's a great champion. Conor is also a fan favorite fighter because he's a boxer who throws punches and likes to engage in fights. Then you had the marketing of the Eubank Jr. fight, which was some of the greatest marketing in boxing. And then you had the enormity of both fights, and particularly the first fight, which was just an absolute classic match. These elements make Conor Benn part of the boxing algorithm. And this means, but what does it mean? It means he's the cash cow. His value is based on his marketing, not just his fighting. So this leads to the next question. Is Conor Benn just hype? Well, we should perhaps put it in a different way. Conor Benn is hype, but he can also fight. So by definition, he's not just hype. To be at European level, you have to be able to fight. And what we can say about Conor Benn is that he has potential and he has character. You might ask, when does he show character? Well, the first Eubank fight showed significant character. And that means something. So Conor Benn, he has skills, he has heart, and he has this massive marketing machine behind him. So what fights are out there for Conor Benn? Well, of course, we have the Shakur fight. Shakur had a tremendous victory over Teofimo Lopez. And he looked like a technical genius in that fight. And yes, that's a big fight. And at the end of the fight, Shakur called out Conor Benn. Now, Shakur is a great fighter. The problem with this fight is, even though it will be big, he could seriously nullify Conor Benn. And this would be a very difficult fight to win. Very difficult fight to win. Then we have the Ryan Garcia opportunity, or potential opportunity. This is a more entertaining fight, potentially because of the clash of styles. Both are hard punchers, both are fast hard punchers. And this would be a more winnable fight than the Shakur fight. And if he could win that fight, there would be even more global relevance. So his global relevance would increase exponentially. And of course, you have other potential big matches out there for Conor Benn. But here's the important thing. And I've spoken about mastery, the importance of mastery. In every sport, at the elite level, there should be forms of mastery. And it's important that Conor Benn focuses on his craft and focuses on the mastery of boxing. Of course, marketing in boxing is important. It's extremely important. And Conor Benn has been extremely effective in marketing. He's an intelligent man. He knows what he's doing. And he's out there. He's building his profile. However, building your craft, think of this. Let me put it another way. Marketing gets you the opportunity, but building your craft increases the chances of winning. Now, when we look at Conor Benn, what can we say? Or what do we say with regards to his potential? We can say he has good movement, good power, good speed, a good team. Of course, he needs to keep improving his boxing IQ and build on his experience. Think of this, the Eubank fight gave him boxing maturity because it was a tough fight and he was able to persevere under the media pressure, under the bright lights, and under the heavy punches of Chris Eubank Jr., particularly in the first fight. So I guess what I'm saying here, in boxing, you could argue that you're not real and you're not fake. The premise here is that there is no real and then there's no objective fake. Boxers are real, but everyone has a different level of ability, or maybe a different level of realness. Conor Benn can fight. That's undeniable, but can he fight on a championship level? Conor Benn has shown championship heart and he's shown good ability, but does he have what it takes to be a champion? I guess in a simple sense, the next chapter to this story is absolutely essential in determining Conor Benn's level. Now, there's one final piece that I think I should add. Conor Benn, he has the ace. He has a lot going for him. He is the money man. People, champions, are calling out his name. This is ideal. Why? Why is it ideal? Because when your opponents chase you, this gives you leverage. What does that mean? Well, it means you can negotiate more money and you can negotiate better terms. But here's something to consider. Never forget the basics. Constantly improve, not just on your marketing, but more importantly, constantly improve your boxing. Constantly improve your boxing environment. Be a student of the game and work smarter and harder. And I think this is important. Boxing is capitalism, but fight for legacy, not just for money. Because when it's just for money, that can lead down to a dark path. And I would argue strongly, that part of your evolution as a boxer, as someone chasing greatness or chasing the path of being a champion, ask the question, or always continuously ask the question, regardless of your success, how can I be better? The doors are opening for Conor Benn, but he has to still be a student of the game, and he needs to be prepared, and he needs to be focused. But this is a beautiful opportunity for him. So that's the end of the video. Now, I'm trying to build a digital boxing community. That means I'm interested in your comments, I'm interested in your questions, and I'm interested in your observations. Now, if you want to support the channel, simply like and subscribe. And if you want to watch more content, click here or click here. Now, thank you for your time. It is much appreciated. Peace.